If you live in Washington State, you already know that the political landscape is incredibly lopsided, but right now we are staring down a tipping point that most voters aren't even tracking. This November, the progressive establishment isn't just looking to win a few races. They are on the verge of securing two things that will permanently reshape life in our state: a legislative supermajority in Olympia and an uncontested, totally progressive state Supreme Court bench. If you think things are tough under a simple majority, wait until you see what happens if conservatives sit this election out.
From Seattle to Los Angeles, this is Left Coast News. No apologies, just the truth.
Let's look at the numbers. Right now in Olympia, Democrats hold a commanding majority, but a supermajority, that elusive two-thirds vote, is the holy grail for the progressive left. Why? Because a supermajority removes the final guardrails of our state government. With a two-thirds supermajority, Olympia can override a governor's veto, instantly pass emergency clauses to bypass voter referendums, and even reshape legislative boundaries during redistricting without a single conservative vote. Think about the policies shoved through over the last few years on taxes, zoning, and criminal justice. A supermajority means they no longer have to negotiate with moderate members of their own party, let alone conservatives. It gives them a blank check to implement a West Coast progressive wish list unchecked. Think about what they would do to your Second Amendment rights. But the legislature is only half the battle. The second and perhaps more permanent threat is happening on the Washington State Supreme Court. Judicial races are nonpartisan on your ballot, which means there's no R or D next to the names. And because of that, conservative turnout in these races historically drops off a cliff. The left knows this. Just last week at the state Democratic Convention, party leaders openly emphasized how critical it is to keep a progressive majority on the bench. Why? Because the Supreme Court is where bad legislation goes to get rubber stamped and where common sense laws go to die. We saw it when they upheld the capital gains tax, and we saw the chaos on our streets after the Blake decision struck down drug possession laws. Right now, 5 of the 9 seats are up for grabs. 5. We have a historic opportunity to inject judicial restraint, textualism, and common sense back into our highest court. If you're a moderate or conservative leaning or just have common sense, these are the names you need to commit to memory, because you're not going to see an R or a D next to these candidates' names on the ballot. These conservative-leaning candidates generally align with constitutional originalism, textualism, strict judicial restraint, and an emphasis on public safety and trial court independence. Number 1, Dave Larson, position 5, the systemic reformer. Judicial philosophy of his is strict textualism and judicial restraint. Larson frequently states that the Constitution should be upheld as written and that the court should be a politically neutral forum. Larson leans conservative by framing the current court as overreaching into the territory of the legislature. He is a vocal critic of the current bench, arguing that its recent decisions have undermined public safety and trial courts rather than supporting them. He advocates for common sense solutions to reduce crime without sacrificing personal accountability, pitching himself as a stabilizer to bring the court back to neutral center. Laura Christensen Kohlberg, position 1, the populist outsider. Independence from the political establishment and a focus on practical family law. While her platform relies heavily on her 30 years of family law experience, her political lean is evident in her direct challenge to the establishment. She heavily emphasizes that she has no political debts or bias and is not a gubernatorial appointee. She explicitly points out that her opponent was appointed by Governor Bob Ferguson, arguing that she enters the race with a clean slate and isn't beholden to the political machinery or executive branch priorities in Olympia. Todd Bloom, position 7, the constitutional traditionalist. He has an originalist approach to the state and federal constitutions, with a heavy emphasis on fiscal responsibility and tax law. Bloom has the most overt partisan history among the group, having previously run for Congress as a Republican. He leans strongly conservative, viewing the current Supreme Court as overly eager to rewrite laws from the bench to align with progressive policies. His legal background is in tax and business law, and his platform centers on restoring a strict traditional separation of powers. David Stevens, Position 3, the institutionalist. Adherence to the rule of law, statutory text, and supporting local trial courts. As a sitting Superior Court judge from Mason County, Stevens leans conservative primarily through his alignment with the Washington GOP's push for diversity of thought on a bench dominated by Seattle area progressives. His platform emphasizes protecting the integrity of the judicial process from political trends and ensuring that regional and rural perspectives are represented on the state's highest court. If you look at what ties these four candidates together, it is a shared critique that the current Washington State Supreme Court behaves more like a super legislature than an independent judiciary. Their collective goal is to shift the court's center of gravity toward a more conservative, text-focused interpretation of the law that defers policymaking back to the state legislature. Unlike the other races where the state Republican Party explicitly jumped in to back specific candidates, the race for Position 4 between Ian Burke and Sean O'Donnell is a matchup between two well-established mainstream jurists. Because neither has a formal Washington GOP recommendation, analyzing their lean comes down to their institutional backing and career backgrounds. Both lean toward the center-left establishment of the state's legal community, but they approach the bench from distinct angles. Sean O'Donnell, the cross-spectrum institutionalist. O'Donnell has been a King County Superior Court judge since 2013 and is a past president of the statewide Superior Court Judges Association. Crucially, his judicial background is in criminal prosecution. He spent 12 years as a senior deputy prosecutor, including work on the Green River Task Force and a special assistant U.S. attorney. O'Donnell leans centrist to pragmatic center-left, drawing heavy support from law enforcement, business groups, and moderate Democrats, while he holds major mainstream Democratic endorsements like U.S. Representatives Adam Smith and Marilyn Strickland and former Governor Chris Gregoire. He is also backed by the Washington Council of Police and Sheriffs, the Washington Farm Bureau, and the Washington Retail Association. His platform emphasizes public safety, victim advocacy, and mental health diversion courts. The takeaway for Position 4. While the other four races feature a sharp ideological divide between progressive incumbents and conservative originalists trying to change the court's direction, Position 4 is a choice between two distinct types of mainstream legal careers. Burke represents a civil litigation, consumer protection, and progressive appointed background. O'Donnell represents a judicial institutionalist with deep roots in criminal prosecution, public safety, and law enforcement backing. If we don't show up for these nonpartisan lines on the ballot, we are handing a 9-0 progressive monopoly to the court for the next generation. We need law and order back in the court and in this state. Remember these names when you're voting this year. The narrative we hear every year is that Washington is a blue state and your vote doesn't matter. That is exactly what the establishment wants you to believe. They win when conservative voters stay home out of frustration. The primary election is August 4th. The general election is November 3rd. Don't just fill out the top of your ballot and toss it aside. Scroll all the way down to the state legislative races and the judicial positions. Stop the supermajority, balance the bench, and take back a voice for sanity in Washington state. If you made it this far, you're exactly the kind of person we built this channel for. Left Coast News exists to cut through the noise and bring you straightforward analysis of the stories shaping Washington, the Pacific Northwest, and beyond. If you found this video valuable, please subscribe and follow us wherever you get your content, including YouTube, Rumble, Brighteon, BitChute, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, X, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. If you'd like to help support independent journalism, you can also join us on Patreon. Patreon is free for now. You'll find the link in the description below. And if you think this story matters, share it with your friends and family. That's one of the biggest ways you can help this channel grow. Now I want to hear from you. What do you think? Do you agree with this analysis or do you see it differently? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching Left Coast News.